as the driver turns to walk back to the vehicle, he puts his hand behind his back and he does this.
History is riddled with unexplained events. You can turn back now or learn the stuff they don't want you to know.
This is an incident that occurred on Wednesday, June 15th, last week as we record this. And it occurred in a place, well, near a place called Port St. Lucie, Florida, which is southeast of where we are. It's immediately north of a place called Marion County, Florida. And that county is just north of West Palm Beach. So if you're looking at it on a map, that's where you'll know where you are. And you'll recognize a highway there, Highway I-95, if you've ever traveled south of Georgia. Yeah,
I don't know why I'm cheering. This is not like a comedy show. It's not like it's not like you went, huh? Any Highway 95 fans? And I'm like 2 drinks in going, woo, 95.
You'll be very familiar with it. The way you are if you live in Atlanta, you're familiar with 75-85 or 85-75 or whatever you want to call it. Just the one that runs through a lot of the places. So we go there. We travel there now via some reporting done by Ari Haight, I think is how you say it, H-A-I-T, who's writing for WPBF, ABC Channel 25, The Fight in 25th. And I'm just going to keep doing that, you guys. And we go to the perspective of a Marion County Sheriff's deputy, a man named Cameron White, and he and his partner are traveling down that highway, I-95, heading south. They're just north of another highway called Martin Highway. And these guys are part of a group called the Traveling Criminal Response Team. Doesn't that sound interesting? Them traveling criminals that I guess roam through your county, I'm assuming. And they were looking for anything suspicious. They're in their patrol car. They're on the highway. And, well, they found it. And according to the article, Deputy White said they observed a car that was traveling above the speed limit, probably a familiar occurrence to them. It had a really dark window tint, he says. And they started following the car. And once the driver of the vehicle being pursued realized that there was an officer behind them, what would the driver normally do? I know what I would do. Oh, crap. I better slow down, and I might even move over to the right. I don't like that there's an officer behind me. Well, this vehicle, you guys, started swerving across lanes all erratically, acting crazy. And like, why would you do this? You can clearly see that we're behind you. No lights were on at that point, but they were immediately after that occurred. So as it happens in everyday life all the time, this car gets pulled over by these officers, and they get all the people out of the car. There were 4 people in total in this vehicle. They get them all out of the car. They have a little talking to with them, and the officers give this driver and these passengers a warning. They say, maybe don't do that next time. Maybe don't go so fast. Don't swerve across the lanes. Use your signal and that kind of stuff. Mm-hmm. And after they say this, the 3 passengers immediately go back to the vehicle. But the driver kind of lingers, hangs around with the officers for a while. And, the deputy's like, what are you doing? We're on the highway. Go back to your car. Come on, man. And they notice that he just had this weird look on his face. As the driver turns to walk back to the vehicle, he puts his hand behind his back, and he does this. If you're watching the video, you can see. If not, I'll just describe it to you. He points his hand the way you would if you were pretending to hold a gun, like a little kid playing a game. And he pulls the trigger finger. And he's doing that behind his back so that it's obscured from people in his vehicle that he's driving, but the officers can see it. Mm-hmm. And so the officers are like, whoa, what the hell is this? And according to the article we're talking about here, the officer said, quote, that made the hair on my neck kind of stand up, as well as my partner. We kind of just looked at each other like, what's going on? So they called the driver back over to them. And the driver said, act like you're giving me a ticket. And he started to tell him what was actually happening. So first of all, guys, I don't think any of us have been in a situation like this where we need to quietly alert authorities about something that's happening. I don't know. Have you guys ever experienced anything like that?
sort of a blink twice if you're okay kind of situation? Yeah, not
Or
personally, no.
Yes.
I've never had to quietly call 911 or anything like that. I've never had to. I've
Set
never
the
been
phone
in that
down
situation.
somewhere secret so no one, so your assailant can't see it. Yeah, definitely seen it in plenty of TV shows, but no, thankfully not personally.
Right. Well, maybe you've been in that situation, and we definitely like to hear from you what technique you used to alert, even if it's just a passerby or somebody that may be able to help you, or even an officer of the law. It's like, what did you do? And how would you recommend doing that? Well, here's what the driver said, guys. According to the Miami Herald and Madeline List, that's who's writing this story, this person was a dog breeder who lived in that area, Port St. Lucie, that we mentioned. And he had been making a really good living selling doggos, and apparently he'd been boasting a little bit about it, maybe too much on social media, about how much cash he's bringing in, kind of showing it off a little bit, right?
Tut tut.
Well, yep. Well, earlier that day, on Wednesday, June 15th, these guys, two of them at least, showed up at our driver's house, and they were pretending to be dog buyers, and they had some guns, and they began holding this guy hostage. And, where's the money? So he produced about $4,500 for them that he had at the house. They took a bunch of clothing that equaled up to just over $8,000. And then they put this guy in a vehicle, and they had a third person who was also there who got in a separate vehicle, and they drove this guy around to like hotels and made him like rent hotel rooms for them, where they further held him at hostage by knife point, and they eventually coerced him into taking them by car to Miami, which is where the dogs actually were. So like where the real money is, right? So all of these guys pile into a vehicle, the one that was seen swerving around the road, and they force the dog breeder, our driver, to take them while they're still holding him captive. And it's crazy. I can't imagine what would have happened. You can't imagine, rather, what would have happened if he wouldn't have successfully alerted the deputy. But that's how it worked out. He got away, and thank goodness. I feel like I kind of sped the ending up really quickly there. But this is the other thing, guys. While the driver was at one of these hotel rooms that they took him to, when he was filling out the paperwork, he wrote, instead of signing the piece of paper, he wrote "call 911" on there. And you can imagine, like, that might be something you could do, right? Write a note.
Sure. Yeah. People have tried that. The thing is, one of the things that comes to mind is what you'll hear a lot of people say is, if you are in a situation like that, one of your primary goals is not to be taken to a secondary location. So to your point, Matt, and I think we should put emphasis on this. To your point, what I believe you're alluding to when you're talking about what would have happened if he had successfully gone to Miami, unless his kidnappers had taken pain to disguise their identities, he was probably meant for the boneyard, because that's what, for anyone who is a casual fan of hip hop or whatever, that's what mask off means. It's not a pandemic reference. Mask off, when someone is victimizing you in a crime, means that it does not matter whether you know their identity or if you can identify them, because you will be dead. That is the reasonable assumption to make. So this guy is doing pretty much, other than flexing, which is a very human error, this guy's doing everything correctly. He's very lucky that the officer in question wasn't just that signal, the child's handgun firing, is so ambiguous that it could be taken as like an ACAB statement, or if a particularly defensive officer, it could be taken as a threat, right? And this guy could have easily have ended up in court, or his survivors could have easily ended up in court after that guy got shot, with the defense arguing that this was seen as a threat to the officer's life.